with I-12GIA, the Voice of Experience podcast. We have myself, Fogg. Rennie's here tonight. We have a new victim down at the bottom. We have Chris down there.
How's it going?
Nomad is somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. I think he's in a hot air balloon, but he's trying to work his way back tonight. And if he makes it here, we'll have him at some time this evening. Okay, so
whereabouts unknown.
Whereabouts unknown. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do the intro real quick, get the monologue out of the way, do the housekeeping stuff, and then we're going to jump into this with both feet all the way up to our asses. Okay, so housekeeping stuff. Sponsors, let's thank them first. I-12GIA, Voice of Experience, Peace of Mind Training are our two biggest supporters at this point. For tonight, we are doing something else for YouTube. I think before I keep forgetting this, and one of these days we're going to get spanked because of it. This is not a child or a kid-friendly podcast. So there are age restrictions. It's 18 and above. The reason being is because of language, flashing lights, scenes of violence, and well, as I said, language, and the content that we put out. So YouTube, listen up, pay attention. I just said that stuff, so leave me alone, okay? Continuing on. Continuing on with that. Tonight, I spent the last week working up the target package for tonight's show. And every time I get one settled, something else weird and fucked up around the world would happen. Okay? There's so much stuff going on tonight. So what we're going to do this evening is current events, breaking news, and news of the weird. Okay, and everything else that's going on. We'll have a discussion about news of the weird later on because I scared Rennie when I told him what we were going to do tonight, and he's just now recovering. When I mentioned flashing lights, that'll only apply when Nomad shows up and if he's not wearing a hat. So you can make of that what you will. All right, did I get all that shit out of the way? I believe that I did.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. So target package for tonight. When I was doing it, I started trying to come up with something. Okay, so headlines. This is my notes that I'm going to read from right here because they're kind of pertinent for this clusterfuck that I found myself in today. South Korea martial law is one topic. Then Romania is about to elect a Russian puppet, which is another one. The UK is falling completely apart. Georgia is about to embark on a civil war. Ukraine is as it ever was. The Middle East is still on fire. Apparently, the Irish are thoroughly pissed off at their government, too, so they're about to give it the boot. France fell today. The government of France was dissolved for the most part, and they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do. So with the problems they have, who knows what's going to happen with that. And that's going to be about it. So we're just going to start off with that. Plus, we're going to go ahead and include Pete Hegseth, what's going on with him, drones over military bases, and so forth and so on. So let's talk about France first, maybe. We had a discussion several months back, and I posited that the pendulum is swinging back to the other side now of conservatism, right? And it's kind of looking I was right, apparently, which I've never been thanked or congratulated for, by the way, even though I don't make a big deal out of like when I'm right, like Rennie does, because he always has to say that he's right. And there's usually bets involved and rash statements about being commando and not wearing underwear and so forth. But I don't need that, see, because I'm confident in my masculinity and in touch with my femininity. So I just like a little pat on the back. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for saying this pendulum has swung back to conservatism, and France is going to be the next recipient of that. Rennie, you got anything on that? Anything you want to say, discuss?
I'm going to sum up France briefly. The only time that the French ever liked Americans is during World War II when the Nazis were drinking their wine and fucking their ladies. Other than that, they could give two shits about us. And frankly, I feel the same way about them. So my only concern about what you're talking about right now is Trump is supposed to be there on Saturday. Is it safe for him to still go there?
Oh, that's a good thought. I hadn't considered that. You know what? I'm going to say no at this point. I think he needs to avoid that place like the plague.
Yep.
Chris, how about you?
Gents, I don't want to derail the conversation, but I will say this. I don't think it's safe for anywhere for President Trump to be right now.
Good point.
When I joined you guys on another platform some time back, I was wrong when I made a statement. I said President Trump would never get elected. I also said that he wasn't going to make it to the election. Now, I was partially right because he was shot and there was a second assassination attempt on him. Questionable third. I don't believe anything on the mainstream media, but he was elected in a landslide, as everybody knows. And I think that was a great move for the country. The citizens have spoken, but the establishment has made it clear that they don't give a shit what the American people say. We are there to serve them, period. That being said, President Trump is our representative. He's probably our only representative. And I don't think it's safe for him to be anywhere. Now, the guy is a savage, and that's what I love about him. He'll go straight to Moscow right now tomorrow. He doesn't care. This was the only American president that ever walked into North Korea. And if we remember when that happened, he was basically dragging Kim Jong-un behind him. So given the state of things, I don't think President Trump really should be anywhere right now. I think we should be protecting him as much as possible, because if by the grace of God we get to January 20th, that's the only way we're going to get there. And I think basically he should hunker down until that time comes. That's just my personal thought.
I'll second that. I'll second that comment, because I got a bet at work with Sergeant Gerard Uber, Army Ranger, 2nd Battalion, that January 20th is not going to come. So Jerry's owed me this money for a while, and I went double or nothing, so I want to collect.
See, what was I saying? Just saying about bets, right? So there we go. That's thank you for illustrating my point. Okay, we're not going to be on the script tonight. We're just going to talk about shit as it comes up, because there is so much shit. So, since we brought up the subject of presidents not being where they're supposed to be, what the fuck is Joe Biden doing in Africa?
Oh,
Angola,
my God.
of all places. So far, he's being led around by the hand by the president of Angola, so he knows where they're talking. And he went to sleep during one of the fucking meetings, I guess.
I saw that one.
But he woke up long enough to tell him that he's going to give him $1 billion in humanitarian aid because of droughts and climate change. So whoever wants to jump on that one, help knock yourself out.
Chris, you go first.
Well, here's my thought, right? I mean, Biden, technically, he's not supposed to be going anywhere, right? I mean, he's just supposed to maintain the line until the next elected official comes in. But I mean, let's be honest, right? You go into politics broke and you come out a multimillionaire. He has to get the rest of the money laundering out there, right? So go ahead and send it to wherever you want, so it comes back and kicks back to our elected officials. And by the time anybody notices it, he'll be in a nursing home somewhere. And right, because it takes us forever to investigate anything. I think writing a $1 billion or $725 million or whatever the case is, we shouldn't be writing any checks right now to any country for anything, especially when President-elect Trump is in the process of talking about setting tariffs and working deals with other nations.
It's completely outside of his lane. Rennie?
So I think that I'm in agreement with Chris. We should be writing checks to any country, with the exception of Israel, but especially like Angola and Ukraine. And when you get Americans in Western North Carolina living in tents without heat that haven't had FEMA show up since the hurricane, and they're freezing and dying, and they can't get fit. They just got water restored the other day. That this is a sin, and it's a travesty to this to be happening to taxpayers in this country. Okay.
Amen.
And I'll leave it there. As far as him falling asleep at the meeting, I'd rather him fall asleep where we could see it. Like last week when he was in Brazil in the rainforest, the Secret Service had to launch a drone to find him. He just walked into the rainforest and got lost, you know?
Yeah. I kind of like to know if he's there in Angola setting up, because there is no extradition treaty with the United States there in that country. So I'm kind of wondering if he's not setting up his his escape plans.
I believe
after this is all
I
over
believe that he is.
Mhm. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Chris, to your point, he's already, I guess, as of today, he's in negotiations with Fauci and all the other fucking criminals in the government to blanket pardons.
I just saw that. Breitbart was reporting that. That just popped up on my feed probably about 30 minutes before I came on the show. I did see that, and that's interesting. Anthony Fauci, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff.
Mhm.
What do they need pardons for? That's interesting.
That was my thought too. You got to be shouldn't you be guilty of something before you need to be pardoned?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's that all about? I just absolutely have no idea. All right, so let's do.
So why did it? Yeah, but if
Go
they didn't commit any, like, why does Liz Cheney need a pardon? Why does Adam Schiff need a pardon?
Well, let's start with this, right? So, I mean, the complete 100% manufacturing of evidence, false evidence against a sitting president. I mean, let's just start with that. Adam Schiff, as an elected official, went on live television and said the evidence is overwhelming.
Yep.
Okay, well, even being a Trump supporter, like, well, he must have stepped on a landmine. What's this evidence you speak of? Yet none of it came out.
Right.
And then they tanked his economy with COVID. Keep in mind, gentlemen, I'm sure you remember there's a virology lab in Wuhan, and there's an outbreak in Wuhan. No, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's a wet market. Somebody bit the head off a bat. Okay, for real? They just kept compounding, just making up evidence one after another. And then, of course, Big Pharma comes in and makes a shit ton of money. There's a lot that they're guilty of. And they know that an actual real administration would put an actual investigation out there that doesn't need to manufacture evidence. Someone's either guilty or not. They would do an actual investigation. And they would find the evidence that the American people were taken for a ride. And that, to me, the charges would be insurmountable. I mean, they would be astronomical, the amount of charges it would come up with. So I'm not surprised this pops up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more key players from the Senate, the House, and his administration get pardons before his exit. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, Joe Biden right now is a kamikaze pilot. It doesn't matter. He's going to be lucky if he can make it another few years. Just with age, politics is over for him, right? And his family. So I think right now it doesn't matter. Now he can just hand out whatever he wants.
Here's what I heard tonight. Speaking of COVID and stuff like that, and I heard that so the National Institute of Health knew that they couldn't send the money out of the country, so when they applied for these grants, the only way they could get them is if the work being done was being done in a lab in North Carolina. Once they get the grants, then they shipped the work to Wuhan. That's where they were playing with the gain of function, or what do they call it? And that's how their intent all along was to let that virus out.
But I'm going to stand by what I said. This was a deployed biological weapon, and I'll tell you that sometime, gentlemen, when we get together, I'll pull out some of the pictures. I was actually working in EMS in a very large system, and when we were sitting around the table when this whole thing first started, I initially didn't believe it. All right, I can be honest with that. Right, I thought it was fake news because we had numerous diseases pop up and nothing ever happened. SARS, MARS, H1N1, Ebola was supposed to kill everybody. Bird flu. We had millions of dollars worth of equipment ready for bird flu. That was supposed to wipe everybody out. Nothing ever happened. And then COVID-19, I completely didn't pay attention to it. Long story short, we were sitting around the table right before everything was locked down. And I said in an open meeting, in an open forum with state and local officials, that I believed it was a biological weapon. Why? Because we've been prepared for everything else before. And
except for this,
if you guys remember, we had 6 Ebola patients come to the country. 6, okay? Mm-hmm. All 6 of them, they were isolated. There were plastic hallways at the airports. There were isolation units. There was, a helicopter followed the ambulance and the whole procession everywhere it was going. Only 6, and we had the country locked, ready to go. Right, there was no way this was going to spread, and then all of a sudden, this disease spread, and it was a super flu, and I saw the numbers being skewed. And then what really made me question this was the United States Army set up in my city. That was huge, and because we've never seen that before, and to me, this was a deployed biological weapon. And of course, I was a conspiracy theorist, and I'm going to stick by that to this day. They couldn't. There's no way you could hide Trump's great economy. It was the best economy we ever had, right? In 53 years, and you could lie about him, you could make up charges, you could impeach him, but you couldn't mess with the numbers on his economy. So what did they do? They shut everything down, and it was also a test. It was a test to see if we would let that happen, and unfortunately, at the time, we did. Different ball game now, though. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, they're not going to get away with it again.
No,
while we're on
never.
the same topic, though, there is some information coming out that HIV was a man-made disease, and that Anthony Fauci had a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
HIV/AIDS.
His initial theory on that one is that it was airborne.
Right. Yeah.
So it was, but he still kept his government job. Interesting.
Yeah.
And now, and now they had a cure for HIV all along.
Yep. Just had to get the infrastructure in place to make the money with it. But
That's why you will never see the magic pill for cancer or anything like that, because Big Pharma go out of business. Hospitals are closing and merging right now. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's it, right?
The healthcare system has been turned on its head.
It completely has. And if the average person wants to figure out if Big Pharma is actually a thing, like you just said, drive to a hospital and look at these buildings. There are billion-dollar cancer centers out there. Now, I'm not disparaging the work that they're doing, because the men and women in there, they're working really hard, and I have multiple family members that are cancer survivors, and I am grateful. However, I do believe that there is a cure for this, and we're not going to see it, because if we do, all those jobs go away.
Right.
All that infrastructure goes away.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to suffer in the meantime. I wish we had a moral compass. We could cure this disease, cure cancer, save lives, move on to the next disease. There'll always be something else.
Right.
Everybody's filled their pockets to the brim with money.
Mhm.
Think of how long the American Cancer Society's been around. And look at how much money the executives get paid versus the amount of money that actually goes towards the research and, taking care of the actual cancer victim themselves.
Absolutely.
That's an excellent point. Somebody said that facetiously said that Trump can cure cancer, and everybody would be pissed off and hate him for it, because exactly what you said, because all the jobs would go away, that industry would collapse.
Yeah.
And it would be his fault. Yeah. Okay, South Korea. What do you guys think?
Pillar of democracy.
Go ahead,
democracy,
buddy.
right?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
It lasted what? How long? 6 hours before their parliament or their Senate overruled that 190-0. I thought that was excellent. I was nervous for the 40,000+ troops that are stationed there. That was my main concern. Was those folks, and I was also worried about what our commander in chief was going to say about that, because that was a very poor representation of democracy. Period.
Yeah.
You know what he said, right? Somebody asked him exactly about that, and he said, "Well, I haven't been briefed. I don't have all the information yet." And this was after it was already over with.
He knew nothing about it.
He didn't know anything about it. What? Ay, caramba. Yeah, so that didn't last long. They're back in their even keel again, and some enterprising individual from either North or South Korea did a video about an exercise video. Girls out there dancing and exercising, all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
And in the background, all the tanks and stuff are rolling up to the presidential palace. and the troops are coming in. It's pretty entertaining. Okay, that covers South Korea. Let's do. Let's do what next? What do you want to do next? Let's go up with the UFOs, fellas. What happened to the UFO invasion?
I'm disappointed. I had my cigar laid out. I had my Crown Royal laid out. I was ready to go. I was hoping the beam would be there and boom, suck me right up, but it never happened. I had to put the cigar away last night in the Crown Royal, so
I'm sorry.
I was just I was devastated beyond consolation.
You were crushed. You needed a
I was
hug. And a
crushed.
good cry. Yeah, I know.
I knew deep down in my heart. One of those persons flying those spaceships said, fuck these people. They're nothing but a problem. They just blew past us 1,000,000 miles an hour.
And lock the doors.
Yeah, they locked the doors too.
Okay, so that didn't happen. But what about all the drones the videos? I mean, are these just all fake videos that people are putting out? Is it just a massive disinformation campaign to put all these videos out of these things, or what's up with that?
Chris, what say you?
Well, I would say right now, and I would never want to give anybody ideas. I will just say this, okay? Our sense of security as a nation is, to say the least, at an all-time low, and it's clear and it's obvious to the world that we don't have really any leadership, and most of our upper echelon in the administration can't define what a woman is. Therefore, I think these drones are absolutely foreign assets because it's open season. We have open borders. We let a Chinese spy balloon slow fly over our entire country for over a week before we did anything about it. So I do think that nations are emboldened to take actions against us, and they're testing us. They're testing us to see what our capabilities are right now. I wholeheartedly believe that these are definitely foreign players testing out their equipment, and they're getting a lot of good intelligence on us.
That's an excellent point. We're going to be doing a show pretty soon on drones and how they're drones and AI both, and how they apply to the modern battlefield. I think we talked a little bit about the last show about the use the Ukrainians are using drones.
Well, how about the Chinese? Yeah, let's not. Somebody already mentioned it, but I want to mention it. Let's not forget the spy balloons that flew over.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what
That were
Chris was talking
shot
about.
down after they used their Radio Shack technology to send all the information back to mainland China. Then and only then was it a couple 100 miles off the coast of Carolina that Biden decided to shoot it down.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. This administration has nothing but contempt for the people. So, and KGP, she basically gets up there every day and just lies because, it doesn't matter. They actually think the American people are too stupid to look up, and that's what they did. Average everyday citizens looked up and made their voice heard, which they had to do something about it. So that's when they acted on that. But if nobody said anything, they would have just let it go.
Too little, too late, though.
Absolutely.
They had what they needed, and they were headed out.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, somebody made an interesting observation about politicians in general earlier. It was a news broadcaster person. And he said that throughout, all the time that he'd been broadcasting and involved in this community, he kind of disliked some politicians. You don't really like them a lot. They're going to lie, cheat, and steal. And you can't really believe anything that they say. And they're just not represented the kind of representatives they should be. He said, so you might disagree with their policies, might not like them as individuals. But he said now he can honestly say that he hates Joe Biden. I mean, it's a deep, burning, abiding hate for this man because of what you just said, Chris. Because he does not give a fuck about us, which is his job, about the people in general. And it's really sad. 50 years in politics and has accomplished nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So we somehow managed to allow him to become president of the United States at a time when we needed a strong leader. And we ended up with a Joe Biden.
Speaking of Joe, anybody see the Truck Todd video?
Oh shit! I think I started to watch it and got
So
sidetracked.
in 2018, when the Hunter Biden story broke about Burisma and everything else, and that was going to expose the Biden crime family, that's when they all decided Joe needed to run for president and get elected so he could deal with the situation. Very interesting video. I never ever thought I'd hear Chuck Todd talk bad about Joe Biden or any other Democrat, but his panties were up in a bunch on this one.
Yeah, they're starting to eat their young. The Democrats in general or eat their own. And they're young too. Everybody's pissed off right now. That's not a good state to be in as a nation. So I don't know. Let's see, fellas, where should we go to next? We're going to save news of the weird for last because that's just going to gross everybody out. And we're going to end with being uncomfortable. So we'll leave that for a while. Let's stick with drones for just a minute. The Ukrainians are getting really good at weaponizing these things. And they have professional units. That's all they do is figure out ways to murder people with drones. Now, some people might disagree with this, and I'll probably piss some folks off, but that's just too bad because that's how I feel. That's something else. That's what else I forgot at the front. Our views are our own, and the opinions and our views do not reflect on our sponsors, which I told GIA and Peace of Mind Training. We come up with this shit all by ourselves. It rattles around our brain, falls out our mouth. And if you don't like it, tough fucking shit. I really don't care. So, having prefaced this statement like that, I personally think that Ukraine is committing war crimes on a daily basis because of their use of drones. Okay, they're chasing
and the UCC and the ICC wants to indict Netanyahu for war.
Well, yeah, let's leave that for just a moment.
All right, okay.
Let's stay. No, it's all right. Let's stay with the drone issue just for a second, so I can get this out of the way. And that's another topic. Actually, we'll go right into to the ICC after that, and what those idiots are doing. But for the drone specifically, and I've got a whole collection now of videos to where they just literally murder people with these things. They'll chase them. They'll chase an individual into a building or across a field, and they'll drop whatever armament they're using, mortar shells or however they're setting these things up, and they'll drop one on this guy and they'll blow a leg off, and then they'll drop another one on him and blow an arm off, and then the most horrible one I've seen is that the guy after they've completely disabled this poor guy and there's just a torso there with a couple of arms, they lit him on fire. And he's trying to put the fire out with the one arm that he has left, and it's horrific. Now, they're sick now. They're uniformed. Now, my thought process here might be a little twisted, but I think if you're a uniformed service and a signatory of the Geneva Convention, or even a uniformed service in the service of a nation state, like let's say Russia or Ukraine, okay, they're both organized governments, right? And they're uniformed services, they're actual armies, they're not militias, they're not terrorists, they're not whatever. You have got to follow, there has to be some rules. There has to be rules of conduct in warfare. And that's kind of a universal standard throughout the world. So I made that statement. I got some pushback. Well, but they're the enemy. I said, okay, I agree with that. But there has got to be some kind of rules because you can't expect your soldiers to be treated any different than you're going to treat the soldiers of the enemy, right? So if you want this shit happening to your people, then go ahead and stick with it. So, bottom line here is if you're members of a uniformed service, follow the fucking Geneva Convention. It's there for a reason.
Yeah, but here's I agree with you, but Russia and Ukraine aren't. Well, number one, they were one country at one time.
Well, yeah,
but they're not signatories to the Geneva Convention.
Well, they're not, but there still has to be rules of warfare.
Neither is Al Qaeda, and they executed those Syrian soldiers the other day.
Okay, all right. Which goes to the next issue here. If you're a terrorist organization or a member of a terrorist organization, whatever method that's the fastest, quickest way to turn you into a cloud of pink mist should and can be used. with great alacrity and post haste. It doesn't make any difference what it is. If that's dropping a fucking VW bus on you, from out of the air or something, that doesn't matter because they're terrorists. They're not members of any kind of an organized uniformed army. These other people are. So you got to follow some kind of rules.
Trump proved that theory with Qasem Soleimani at the airport.
Well, yeah. And Israel's doing some great stuff there, but they're fighting terrorists, though. They're fighting terrorist organizations, and or the proxies of nation states. The proxies of Iranian. They're still fucking terrorists. Fuck those guys. However, you have to kill them and make them into little pieces. Get it done. Which brings us back to how can the ICC not consider them terrorists, but yet they can go after Israel for the things that they're doing? Rennie, go ahead.
I think the ICC is not really recognized in too many countries. Number one.
No, right.
Number two, I think the ICC is selective in who they want to go after. They're just another anti-Semitic organization that hates Jews. The United States don't recognize them for one, and neither should the whole world really. There's really no use for them. They did good work. With the Nazis, but the Nazis were all kind of died off in a part of history now.
Well, yeah,
so
that was completely contained too.
These the ICC's outlived its usefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's time for them to disappear right off into the sunset.
Chris,
have a good life, whatever.
Well, let me start by saying this as a Christian. If you mess with the Holy Land, you deserve every fucking thing that comes to you, period.
Yeah.
There's number one. Number two, let's look at history, okay? Israel is a far smaller country than the ones it's surrounded by that get attacked repeatedly. And most of the countries around there, not only its leadership, the dictators, the presidents, or whatever they call themselves, their military officials, their cabinet, repeatedly call for the annihilation of the Jewish population, period. However Israel defends itself, I support. My heart breaks for the civilians that are caught there. War is terrible, period. Mm-hmm. And if you were to ask me at any time, I would say war is never the answer. However, they were attacked. They've been attacked. They have every right to respond and to continue responding how they see fit until the attacks stop. They must protect their sovereignty, period.
Yep.
Whatever happens. Getting back to your other point, with the drones, I know after Vietnam, we stopped using napalm. They did change it to a derivative called Incendigel, right, which is kind of the same thing. There were some ingredients that were changing it, but I'll tell you, it is scary watching those drones fly over areas and drop thermite. I don't understand like how that would be acceptable as far as Geneva goes, but like Rini pointed out, they're not members of that. They didn't sign off on it. So I think we should pay attention because this is the future of warfare, and I think that anybody, especially any American patriots, any Minutemen, you'd want to pay attention to this. This is the way war is going to be from this point on, dealing with drones. Any man can train to deal with another man, right? And I'm sure you guys could show me how to disable a tank, and I can shoot, and I could show you how to do emergency medical services, right? We could train each other for that. Drones are a completely different thing, and we definitely should pay attention to all the intel that's coming in on how to deal with them.
And they are everywhere right now.
I got a military grade drone sitting in a case right here on my bookshelf that has infrared on it and can take pictures. I'm sure I could get it to do a whole bunch of other things too. But you're right. They got drones the size of flies.
Mm-hmm.
They can put into buildings and eavesdrop on conversations and do different things. So scary technology.
Yep.
Very scary.
We need to work on that one. Let's take about a 5-minute break, fellas, and then we'll come back. And when we come back, Another topic came up during our little conversation so far. What's the need or the possibility of the Second Crusade?
All right.
Amen.
Sound
Amen.
good? All right, let's
Yep.
do that. About 5 minutes then.
5 minutes, got it.
Let's see here. Oops. Right, folks, we are back. Let me get rid of this screen here and get back to where I'm supposed to be. There we go. Okay, welcome back, folks, to I12GIA, the voice of experience. Just before we went on the break, we mentioned that we're going to be talking about the need for a second crusade. And I don't want this to deteriorate into a conversation about which religion is best or which religion is an actual religion and which religion is a cult, or any of that kind of stuff. They're all here. They all need to be dealt with. My thoughts on this is that Islam is making major gains all around the world, as far as through legal and illegal immigration, and humanitarian crises, and they're everywhere now, or the followers of Islam. May not necessarily a bad thing, but it's could be a problem because one of the cornerstones is replacement theology, is one of the cornerstones of Islam, and that's that they replace whatever religion was there before. They built the Temple Mount. I've seen it in Bamyan in Afghanistan, where the Taliban destroyed all the sculptures and things that were there up in the mountains because you can't have any kind of effigies or false idols. Really, you've seen it in Iraq, where they've gone in, ISIS and the rest have gone into museums and destroyed those things. So that's kind of the theory, and they're doing it now in England. I guess London, it's pretty much fallen. I mean, they're done as far as this goes. You have them. Mosques are being built on top of churches. They're interrupting church services. But it's all part of the replacement theology. So, Rennie, what do you think, buddy?
You said you didn't want to. Well, speaking in generalities, all right.
Okay.
I want to put that out there first. Islam's ideological position is they want to take over the world. You know that. You were in Afghanistan.
Right.
The only way that you can coexist with Islam is, number one, if you convert, or if you pay the tax that they set, allowing you to not participate. That's number one. Number two, let's not forget about all the Catholic Church sexual abuse that was swept under the rug, okay, by the Pope and his minions. That said, every religion has their problem. But the religion that exudes the most violence is Islam. And they'll take a gay guy or a gay woman and throw him off the roof of a parking garage because they're gay. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I saw a video the other day in Pakistan, some beautiful Pakistani woman getting stoned to death because she had an affair outside of marriage. So, I mean, they're absolutely the worst. I mean, the others are bad, but they're the worst. And they need to be dealt with. And the saying that, certain groups or certain people are going to cause good men to do bad things, that's where that comes from. That's the direction that it should head in.
Okay, Chris?
I have to second that. There's good and bad in every religion, and with the Catholic Church, we can hate the managers, but don't hate the institution. Christ set the church up himself, gave the keys to Peter, but we're broken, and that's the biggest part of Christianity is we know, true Christians know we're broken, and we can't do anything without God. Period. That being said, I would love to talk to somebody who could point out to me the last time a Catholic dove a plane into a building, or a Catholic walked into or a Christian, right, or a Jew walked into a cafe with a suicide vest on to target civilians.
Right. Right.
They're, I haven't heard any yet. Now there have been some Christians that have done some crazy things. This is where the good and the bad comes in. And again, I'm not going to condemn the whole institution or get on what I personally think is the right or the wrong. But I will say this. I know that if the Jews have Israel, they will let me go there as a Catholic and worship. Okay. Right. I know they will let the Muslims go there and worship how they want. But I can guarantee you, if the Muslims take it over, we're not going there.
No,
they're not letting us in. And if they do, we're not coming back out. So,
actually, not to interrupt you, hold your train of thought for a second, but having been there and having worked there, but the Muslims do actually have part of Jerusalem. They have the upper part, the Temple Mount. That's all Muslims up there. Jews can't go up there. We have the Western Wall and down below and underground. So to an extent, they do control part of Jerusalem.
If it was a total takeover, we would have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't, we'll never get that back.
No.
And as it stands, I mean, my wife and I, we want to go there. We want to see the tomb. We want to go to the Sea of Galilee. We want to see where Jesus walked on water. We want to see where he preached to the 5,000, the Sermon on the Mount. We want to go to all of these places. And then what? If it's Muslim controlled, then my wife has to wear a burqa. What?
So you want to go? I'm going with you because I used to work there, and I lived there for a while. When you go to Bethlehem, that Bethlehem is under Palestinian control. You got to surrender your passport to the border guards if they still exist. But because the whole country, the whole Gaza and they're all in disarray. I don't think they're controlling the borders anymore. But when I went over to Bethlehem a few times. That was Palestinian controlled. I had to turn over my passport to the Palestinians. I didn't get it back till I left. So
I would never, look, I would never want to hurt anybody. I really don't, especially at this stage in my life. I don't want to hurt anybody, but I would have to say this. If the Holy Land fell, we got to do something.
Yeah.
We can't just let it go.
Here's the thing: is we can't
go.
let as old and decrepit as some of us are. Chris, I'm not including you in this.
Thank you.
You're in great shape. But Chet, me, and fucking Nomad and Gerard Uma, I know you're gonna listen to this on the way home. We're all fucking old and decrepit. We can't be jumping out of planes like Jerry did, or we can't be running across, shooting and running. And although we would like to do it, we still do it for fun. But doing it for real, I don't think we can do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, let me frame this in the form of a question and see how this works. Judeo-Christian societies have rules, right? They have rules and laws. Okay.
Yeah.
And in our specific society, there's a separation of church within our government. There's a separation of church and state. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Now, the Islamic religion is the state is the church, or is the religion, or however you want to word that. So, in your mind, would you say that Islam is or is not compatible with Western civilization?
Islam is not compatible with Western civilization.
Period. Period.
Yes.
There's no way around it. And for our civilization here in the United States, this was formed on Judeo-Christian values. That's what this country was formed on, and it does not fit any other. Period. It's not compatible.
I'll take it a step further than that. It's here's your table with your religions: Christianity, Judaism, Buddhist. Islam doesn't even belong in the religious realm. Islam is an ideology, okay? All these other religions, their books, like the Jews, like me, the Torah was given to Moses, okay? The Bible was written by the apostles. Muhammad, on the other hand, was just a pedophile who come up with this, what do they call it? What's their book?
The Quran.
The Quran. I mean, if you read the Quran, it reads like a mafia manifesto. Okay?
Well, if you want to look at it from and not to derail this at all, but if you truly want to look at it from a religious standpoint, a theological standpoint, okay, Muhammad himself said he was possessed by demons. Just throwing that out there. That was his own admission.
Yeah.
As well as the people around him said it as well. So
yeah,
I'm not. I'm just stating that's a fact. That was said. So, and that was what 600 years after Jesus.
Yeah.
So,
and there's no evidence that Muhammad ascended to heaven either.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Exactly.
just a scumbag human that's buried somewhere. So
there's a lot of
if
people
you're
consider it to
listening
be a
out
cult.
there, and you want to come and get me, you know where to find me.
Yeah, a lot of people just consider it a cult. Okay, so let's do the next question. Since Islam has pretty much, I don't want to say infested, has pretty much integrated. They're within Western civilization throughout the world now, with great regularity. What's the possibility, in your gentlemen's learned opinions, of a second crusade to fix this problem?
Chris, lead off.
Pope Francis would never do anything like that ever, right? Let's get that out of the way. And here's the great part. Yes, do I pray for Pope Francis? I absolutely do. Do I have to understand what he's thinking or saying? No, I don't, and that's okay. Do I believe the Holy Spirit is communicating with him? Not too sure yet. I'm going to keep my opinions to myself on that one. So if we were talking about an actual sanctioned crusade, we will never see one come out of the Vatican ever, especially after the statements by the Pope. Now, an unofficial, I'm going to say this: the Templar Knights back in the day. We could say what we want about the French, right? And I half agree with you, and I can kind of say that because I am French, so that's okay. The Knights Templar, their primary goal was to guard the Pilgrim Road, so the pilgrims could go to the Holy Land. If we've ever needed guards on the Pilgrim Road, it's right now. It's right now. So I would think that it would be an unofficial one, and I think there would have to be a total overrun of the Holy Land where casualties were catastrophic. Then I think you would see religious groups get together and then some of our veteran friends, you guys have been in and out of these places, would have to get us to and from. I think you would see some sort of surgeons to do that. But as far as something official, not as long as Francis is in there.
Yeah. Okay. Rennie?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Chris, what he just said. It'd have to come from the Catholic side, and I don't think the Pope has well, I think he's like Biden. He hasn't, his faculties aren't all there, but even if they were, I don't think he has the appetite for something like this.
Okay, I kind of took us down a rabbit hole there, so let's get back on track a little bit and finish up with another question, and then we'll go into news of the weird, and then we'll call it a night. Rennie,
Don't
you and I
forget
were
Hegseth.
talking. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for reminding me. That's right where I was going, buddy. We were discussing this earlier. That's a pretty high-speed, low-drag position, or should be anyway. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth seems to be a perfect fit. So why is he getting so much pushback? Anybody want to take that?
Mitch McConnell. I'm sorry. Mitch Turtle Boy McConnell. Let's start with that. And all of his little cronies that he rammed through there. Anytime a true American patriot comes up to hold some sort of position to represent the people, they have to get in the way. I agree with you. I agree with you that Hegseth is a fantastic pick. He's not going to be quick to send our men and women into harm's way, but he will kick ass and take names if he needs to. And I did think it was funny when CNN went right to the white supremacy thing because of his tattoo. The Jerusalem cross.
Jerusalem cross of all things, the fucking idiots.
Yeah. But he's inspired me to get one myself. So thank you, CNN. Say whatever they want. So I will be doing that.
Good for you.
I think I think he's a great pick, and I really hope that he gets confirmed because we need him for sure.
Yeah. Ready?
So I think this is a case of Democrats doing what Democrats do best. They're trying to tarnish somebody that they're afraid of. Somebody that's going to disassemble the institution, and rightfully so. That being said, let me say this: Congress paid out between 1997 and 2017. Congress paid out over $17 million to victims of sexual harassment by members of Congress. Why does that conversation never come up? Okay? Why does that conversation never come up? You know? And now they're saying he's got a drinking problem, this, that, the other thing. The guy was a battlefield commander. If he was that bad, I don't think he would have got to the rank of major, number one. Because when he was in, rules were a lot different then. Number two, Democrats doing what they do best. They're trying to tarnish the image of a conservative that's going to go in there and do a no-nonsense job. He's going to reinstill in the military what they allowed to happen for the last 4 years, to just make it go woke, you know? Mm-hmm. And they can't stand that, you know, and they're going to do everything they can to stop it.
There's a couple other people to throw into that mix. They're rhinos against them. One of which is Jerry Ernst, or Joni Ernst, whatever the hell her name is, who was kind of interesting with her because she got jammed up back in 2003, I think it was 2003 and 4, for having an affair with a member of an underling within her command staff. Apparently, she was in the military too, and her husband, I guess, was not happy about that, and she got caught. So she's one of them.
You think that's going to come out at the Senate committee? These
probably
committee meetings? Huh?
Probably not.
Well, they should.
I guess we'll find out. Maybe it should. Exactly. Well, I thought of that, glass houses, right? You know, and then Lindsey Graham is the other one. That's but they're rhinos. They're just, again, they don't give a shit about people in general. Now, I guess there was some thought that Pete Hegseth was going to bail there for a while, and he was going to withdraw his nomination and so forth, but he apparently has changed his mind. I heard today that President Trump has given him his marching orders already. His marching orders are to increase the lethality of our military. That is their job. They kill things and blow shit up. That's what they're there for. And
they don't put on lipstick, right?
No.
They don't put on lipstick, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna segue right into our next topic. Thank you for that. Shortly here momentarily in news of the weird. Um, but anyway, so increase the lethality of the military, cut through all the other bullshit, and do what our soldiers do best, which is kill things and blow shit up, right? So those are his orders, and he's the guy to do that. And that's what they're scared to death of. They don't have any control
Amen.
over that shit anymore. So anyway, hopefully we'll see what happens. But he's not backing down any. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, news of the weird. All right, we've already covered some. Renee and I covered some of this pre-show in the green room, but we'll kind of go to it now. A couple of things have come out. The Supreme Court. There's a Supreme Court justice today that said transgenderism is or being anti-transgender is the same thing as being anti-interracial marriage.
So we already know where she stands, Ketanji Brown.
Right.
We already know where she stands. We already know how she's going to vote, right? So
Right.
you had to know that was going to come from somebody like her.
Well, yeah, you kind of had to. There are so many theories on this whole transgender thing. I mean, what are they? There's a small percentage of the population. Some consider it to be a mental illness. Some consider it to be, some other kind of an issue. Which leads me into the final story of the day, which apparently you can purchase a prosthetic fetus or a baby, prosthetic infant, about the size of one when they're born. Okay, so for those folks, those transgendered folks that want to experience the joys and the pains of childbirth, apparently you can take this prosthetic baby and stick it up the rectum, and then go ahead and expel it. And they're saying it's the same thing as having a baby, right? For these transgender folks. How far have we fallen as a society to where something like this is even remotely acceptable?
We just need Jesus to come back.
Man,
Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready, Lord. Whenever you're ready.
Chad, I said earlier. Go ahead, Chris. Finish.
If I heard the trumpet sounding right now, I'd say, gentlemen, I'm not surprised.
I know, right?
I said when we were talking about this in the green room, for once, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say.
I was shocked and amazed. With the 2 years where we've been doing this now, he was speechless.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless.
I
Sorry.
thought he had a stroke or something. It was kind of
I got nothing to contribute on that one.
Yeah, me neither. I had to spit it out there, and I actually had to see one of them. So, but
you can't make it up.
and you can't unsee that shit either. But anyway, that's what it is. So, society needs a reset completely. But I think it's happening.
Although tomorrow, I think I'm going to take some of my my stock investments and invest it in KY Jelly, if this is true.
Yeah.
There you go. Smart investment.
But there you go. Yeah. It's a sign of the times.
Gents, real quick.
Yes, Chris.
Before we go, what are your thoughts on this United Health CEO being executed in New York? Did you guys see that video?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys being firearms experts, all right. He had a suppressed pistol. Notice he had to keep racking the slide back.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, to me, it looked professional. Like, this dude did not give any fucks at all. Just pulled the gun out, shot him, racked the slide, realizing there was a problem, fired multiple shots, and then went across the street. This was targeted. This was a hit. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. It was targeted. It was a hit. The guy, just by the mere fact that they found 3 live 9mm rounds on the ground, tells me the guy wasn't a professional. Because when you tap and rack, okay, you do it once. Most times you only do it if you got a stovepipe, just to clear the stovepipe so the slide will cycle. By the fact that he kept doing it and ejecting live rounds, that says to me he was in a panic mode. I gave you a package not too long ago. I hope you're using it. I wear body armor every time I leave the house.
Absolutely.
So my analysis of that is there's some theories out there about this. He was using low-powered subsonic round, 115 grain, which with the type of firearm, they still haven't identified positively what type of handgun it was, or what type of suppressor that, for that matter. Problem with 115 grain is sometimes it won't cycle depending on the gun, and there's some devices that you need to have to get that done. Now, because for example, a typical self-defense round is 147 grains.
Yeah.
And usually jacket hull, as opposed to and 115 grain. There's just not enough there to cycle the slide. So that's what's caused the misfires. The problem I
think the problem he had with the cycling, though, I think the problem he had with the cycling is he had a silencer on there.
I was just going to ask that.
Well,
I was just going to ask that. Would the suppressor add to that?
Yes. That's the problem with the 115 grain rounds.
Yeah.
Especially if he was trying to use subsonic, because you don't necessarily need to do that. You're not worried about the subsonic crack of the bullet.
Yeah.
And that in that environment, you need to use a higher grain. The other issue that I had with it watching the videos is that a pro would have walked up right behind him and shot him in the back of the head. One shot,
one kill. Boom.
Because he was maybe 10, 15 feet away. There was there was a woman standing right there on the sidewalk. I don't know if he never even saw her or didn't, because she took off. So a pro wouldn't have left her. He wouldn't have put a professional wouldn't have put her in that position to begin with.
Yeah.
A pro would have killed her too.
Yeah.
So I don't motive here. I have no idea. The guy's supposed to testify in front of Congress, I guess, over the next day. His wife said that he had received some death threats within the last 24 hours, and I don't know if he didn't take them seriously. There was no security apparently there, or if there was, they failed miserably. So I don't know.
No, he had no security team with him.
Security, okay. So instead of having death threats,
he must have thought that gun control works.
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
Where New York City, where the cops can't get a license to carry.
Right.
So here's where I think that we'll talk about it off here, Bob.
Okay, well, whichever. We're a little bit run over right now. All right, let's go ahead and finish up. Chris, you want to do some closing statements here, and then we'll move on to Rennie, and then I'll close this out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate coming on tonight, gents. Thank you. It was a good time. It's been a long time since we had the conversations. I think that all of these topics are really important. And I think you guys should definitely bring them back up so we don't forget them. Right. The public needs to know about it. And we got to pay attention, and hopefully, we pray that we can make it to the 20th of January. Right. And if I don't talk to you guys on here before that, Merry Christmas to everybody out there.
Thanks, buddy. Rennie?
Chris, I agree 100%. You have a great show tonight. Thank you for being on. You made it happen. Yeah, you rock. You made it happen. Your thought process is right on. I agree. I pray that we make it to the 20th of January. I'm not as optimistic as most people. I'm betting against us making it to the 20th of January, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. And it is what it is,
Okay, on that happy note, let's not forget our sponsors, Peace of Mind Training and I12GIA Group Intelligence Analysts. Chris, thanks, buddy. You're welcome back here anytime.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
Very, very insightful responses and so forth tonight. So
Chris, stick around, because after we go off, we'll talk.
Yeah.
I got you.
Afterwards, just don't go anywhere after we leave. Okay, so Peace of Mind Training. The year is wrapping up. We have like 2 episodes left, which reminds me, Rennie being the pessimist of the group and myself being the optimist. The first 3 days of 2025 are Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That'll happen on the 1st, the 2nd, and 3rd. Those initials are WTF.
What the fuck?
AKA what the fuck. Now I think that what the fuck applies to last year. Okay, like what the fuck happened in 2024? Rennie, my good friend, the pessimist on the other side, thinks it's going to be what the fuck is up with 2025.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens.
I got a $30 bet riding on it, so don't disappoint me.
Yeah, it wouldn't be any fun if everybody didn't agree with each other. If everybody agreed with each other all the time. So anyway, coming up on the holiday season. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy Hanukkah. All that fun stuff to all you folks. Keep the ones that you love close and give them a big hug, and prepare to self-rescue, because there ain't nobody coming. We're going to be on our own. All right, folks, we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same station. It's been a pleasure as always. And I'll go ahead and close this out for the night.
Peace out.
God bless.
And there we